I know some of you from before, and we probably met before. For the other people who see me for the first time, you probably recognize me from something. I was featured in the article that's making the case that developing is so hard it makes you go bald. So they used a picture of me and my other Ninja Turtle friends. And so this was a radio station in Idaho. And we were trying to have a survey and a study actually showing correlation here. Correlation is always interesting. And if that doesn't help, I also used to play guitar in a band before I sort of got my promotion. So I work for Google here in Stockholm, and my role is working with developer relations. Sorry, relations. I should be able to pronounce what I actually do. I work with developer relations for the Nordics. And what that means is that I work cross-product. So I work with all the different things that we do that is targeted at developers. And it's not only, I mean, these are products and approaches, but it's not only that. It's also talking with different startups, talking with developers, and just finding out the trends, the hurdles, what we can do and what we should do to make things better for developers. What should we get involved in, and you know, what should we sort of stay away from as well? And what that means in essence is that for me, coming from a web background, once I was an expert at something, and now I've become a generalist. And this is not my psychology session, but it's an interesting transition when you sort of tamper with so many different kinds of stuff in so many different areas. So I get to see a lot of stuff, but at the same time, I can't really go as deep into it as well. And the reason we're doing this together with Johan and Eric today as well, just to sort of cover all the bases. So my role is mostly the nice guy with the big smile who's shaking hands and handing out business cards, but it's also sort of being the champion for developers in the Nordics. So if there are things that need to be escalated or things that we need to fix or make better, that's kind of where I am. So it's an interesting mix of networking and lobbying, House of Cards, stuff like that. And also trying to help and remove obstacles for developers trying to actually build things. So basically, I'm not a sales guy. I actually used to do real stuff before. And looking at the TV climate today, and it's one of my favorite pictures with the pessimistic printer, is that we had TVs for a long time, and we're sort of moving away from it, because TVs has been something that's most at least been sort of shoved down your throat. You have no control over the content, when you want to watch it, what you want to watch, etc. And currently in the world, no? Oh, okay. Fantastic. Okay. What the hell? Okay, so I'll do this really. Yeah. Anyway, crap. Okay. So this is the annoying. This is the engineering part that's sort of still around. I can fix this really quick. Yeah, I know Unix. Let's see if this works. Ha! In your face. So basically, there's an estimate right now. There's a 1.8 billion TV devices out there, which is a lot of devices. And looking at sort of old TVs, not sort of the old thick ones in that sense, but flat ones, but aren't really connected or smart. I would personally say that smart TV so far hasn't really been a fantastic, smooth experience. And looking at sort of the trend of replacement right now, it's between 100 and 200 million TVs are being replaced each year, which is a pretty big number. And I think TVs have sort of gotten a bad reputation in the sense that they're great, but we haven't had control. So the interesting part here, of course, is to see what can we do to actually try and make the TV experience better. And to be completely honest and open, Google has had a few steps in this direction over the years. I personally think that the difference right now, and especially sort of with the Android traction as well, if you look at mobile, Android has 75% market share right now. Other players have less, because that's math. But it also gives us pretty good leverage with all kinds of different hardware devices, but also trying software and on so many different hardware options as well as different environments and contexts. So with Android TV right now, the sort of goal is to make TVs better and smarter, and also adapt them more to what people actually want, which seems to be like a good idea. So basically having a smart living room experience and giving the control back to the viewers. And there are 3 keywords to describe our Android TV initiative, and it's casual, cinematic, and simple. And casual in the sense that it shouldn't be hard in any ways to getting access to it and using it. Cinematic in the sense of having a much bigger focus when you talk about user experience on having more visual content and not too many menus, not too many buttons and text and such, and rather work really strong visually. And the last part about trying to make it simple, and in this case, when you have a remote for a device, typing on a mobile isn't that much fun. It's getting slightly better. Typing with a remote control is, like putting out a campfire with your face. So one of the options with this remote is that you have voice control as well. So you can just tell it what you want to look at or do with it, and open Netflix, and it opens that up. But you can also ask it for a specific thing, like show me all the movies with Natalie Portman, and you get all the movies, etc. So basically just trying to have as simple interaction as possible. And being Android, of course, it builds on top what Android has already created with both the Play Store, but also with code and environment and frameworks. So there are already a number of apps out there. I actually think Netflix should win some kind of prize because they're probably the first app on any device ever known to man, which they deserve respect for that. But it's not only not only sort of Google and for instance, a TV experience. Looking at where we are right now, it's TVs, but it's also different media players. It's also slightly stronger gaming consoles as well. And for instance, Sony has said that in future, like all their smart TVs in a number of countries, with a number that I don't think I can say, or I will be fired, and that would be sad. But that's going to be the default operating system for them moving forward on all smart TVs, which of course is a really big impact. And also looking at Sharp and other players in that area, and with NVIDIA and different things that they are looking into. And was it a week ago? A little more. The Nexus Player launched in all the Nordic countries. And the Nexus Player is basically, just to see what it's plugged into, a round puck. It's not an homage to ice hockey or something like that, but we could say it is. And the essence is that it's just something that you connect to your TV directly with an HDMI cable, and that's it. You have the remote control, and you can use it. But as an extension of that, or an optional thing that you can buy with it, is also a gamepad. So if you buy the gamepad, you can also play a lot of Android games on the Android TV as well, which could be directly in TVs like Sony TVs or Nexus players, or on the other devices. It's going to be sort of the same game and the same platform, just different sort of, different delivery. And the thing also with the games, there are some games that you can play with the remote, but most of the games are being with the gamepads. Yes?
Can't you just use your existing Xbox or PlayStation controller?
Right. So just for recording, the question is if you can use your existing controller. Right now, no. Over time, I don't know. Best thing with calendars when they take sort of access over the entire screen to remind you about stuff. And there are also actually already a fair number of games that have been shipped on the Android TV platform, and we're getting more and more games. And I think not only sort of for the Google initiative around Android TV, because of course there's going to be a lot of other players as well. But I think the interesting part here is looking like if you can buy a game for 9 kroner or 50 kroner instead of 600 kroner or 700 kroner, I mean, you can't compare them eye to eye, but you can have a good enough experience. And let's say, honestly, games that you pay 50 or 60 kroner for are quite polished, and you're having games from big studios like Disney and other ones. So it'll be interesting to see if sort of gaming takes off even more, because it's lower cost. It's easy to just sit with the remote, just order another game, and just keep on going. Didn't disappear. Fantastic. And also, and looking globally, you're probably all aware of Chromecast, which is just a small thing that you just plug into the TV, and you can cast things from your phone to the Chromecast. And the Nordics region is one of the strongest regions when it comes to both users and developers with the Chromecast. So a natural evolution of that is with the Android TV and the Nexus player, is that it also has cast support, and Android TVs in general have cast support. So if you have an app that you want to use, or you build an app that has cast, you can just keep on casting to this one as well. It's just another device that comes up in the menu. And of course, the argument, and Eric will get into that more, is also right now we're just on the verge of launching. I mean, 1 week ago for the first device in Sweden. There are a number of apps, but not that many. So it's also an interesting incentive, giving a big push from Google as well to just get in there early on, and a bigger chance of getting featured and a bigger chance of also getting recognition on the platform. And naturally, with Android TV, you have all the connections to the Google Play Store as you would have with mobile apps. So anything from, especially around the gaming services, you have the game services, you have the different ads if you want to. And it's more and more turning into, especially for TV and talking about the user experience, having interstitial ads that aren't sort of as disturbing, or just, having parts of the screen be in Google AdSense, because that wouldn't be that nice. With all respect to Google AdSense, don't fire me. And also, and this is sort of like a thing that I guess other players in the market would do. If we talk about also making a business out of this, so far Google has paid out $7 billion to developers, which is, as far as I know, the highest number in the market. And the estimate right now is that we reach about 1 billion people on different Android devices, and in over 190 countries. So the push, of course, is naturally that you can build something here right now. And as we all know, being in Sweden, just targeting the local market doesn't mean that much, right? We need to go global, international as fast as possible to have a big impact. And one kind of side part here, especially if you're building games, is this something that was announced at the GDC, the developer conference for games or gaming, a couple of months ago, was, for instance, the player analytics, how you can easily, within the console, compare your games to other games and just how well they're doing. You can also measure the player retention and kind of see when it goes bad, and also go through the player progression, and see what kind of hurdles or what are the things that they stumble upon. And all of this is, of course, numbers, and trust me, Google does love numbers. But the upside here is also, I mean, they could help you, but it doesn't have to be the truth. I mean, people always find correlation in anything, like how many movies did Nicolas Cage make and how many people drown in swimming pools, and it's the same graph, right? So if you want to have correlation, sure, for the sake of it. But it is there, part of the package and part of the developer console if you want to. And I think another thing as well, and even more important when you start building something for TV, is to making sure that it actually feels real and not just close enough.
Can you run the same apps? Do you have access to them?
As on mobile?
Yeah.
Yes, I'll get there. These are dogs, by the way, if you're wondering. Or really small Star Wars people. This is a new movie. But part of that, of course, is that we're trying to help developers to make sure that we have a more consistent experience. In all honesty, other mobile platforms, I mean, especially looking at iOS, has had a really good consistent user experience between the different apps and a good user flow. And we're trying to get there, especially with material design. but also with different quality guidelines, both for apps in general, but also for Android TV particularly, and also different best practices around that. So, and also a few things to keep in mind when you start doing something right now, and coming back to what Johan here asked, is basically you need to remember to opt in for the TV on the Play console and know the different check things. But also the recommendation is to build one single APK and only having one single Play Store entry. So it's not you need to build one app for each platform or device or TV that comes out, but rather you just build one, and then within the Android manifest, you can just list what's supported or not supported, and just to have different feature checking within your code. And I mean, the idea is that it might be slightly more code for some instances, but in general, the goal is to keep it in one place instead of just keep on building the same app, but 15 different times. We also have, and this could be an interesting follow-up later, and I'll share the slides and they're full of links, but we have a number of DevByte videos, anything from introduction videos to using the Leanback library. You're going to show the Leanback library, I guess. Perfect, but better than the video recording. Have you seen the video recording?
A little bit.
We should have synced this. We're really good at it. But also around using the global search. And I think that's one interesting part, like when you start Android TV, and naturally search is a big part of it, and you have the voice search, and how would you expose your app to being searchable, and how would you have the content indexable? And one sort of final thing that I want to go into here, and talking about Eric and Johan, is something that we have at Google that might be interesting to some of you. So Android, that's your new name, Eric. I can baptize you or knight you. I don't know which one it will be. But Eric and Johan are experts on Android for Google. And basically, the experts program that we have, it's within technology for different platforms. It could be the web, HTML5. It could be Chrome. It could be naturally Android, cloud, analytics, etc. And the general idea there is that you sort of get acknowledged by Google, like your knowledge, and it also becomes a collaboration between us and you. So basically by, say, speaking at conferences or writing books, writing articles, helping startups, etc. And this is not only tech, it's also product marketing, and it's about user experience and other parts as well. And by doing that, let's say in this case that Johan and Eric are Android experts, they get a closer connection to the Android team within Google. They also get advanced information on the stuff that we're doing with Android and other parts. So hopefully, and I hope these two agree with me, it's a nice give relationship that you learn more and you get more access, and you're also becoming part of a bigger network of being really good at a certain part. And within the website, there are just different things that sort of list what we would expect of you that you're doing, and how you're sort of not contributing back to us, but contributing back to the developer community within your city or within your country or within your region. And with that said, then I really want to emphasize this as well, and especially with the information on the last slide, always feel free to contact me and ask for anything. One of my sort of key skills right now is email. So send me an email or send a tweet to me and just ask for whatever you want, and I'll reply, and we'll talk about it, and we'll see what we can do. With that said, and I'm just 10 seconds over, Eric will talk about the real nitty-gritty stuff about actually building stuff for Android TV. Thank you. Oh.
Switching computers. Let's hope this works. Okay, I'm on.
Hur kan jag se det? Har du provat det där?
Nej, jag har inte gjort det. See if this works now. Yes, it does. There we go. Okay. This one is on. Okay, so I'm going to talk about code. Anyone wants to look at code? Hey. Right presentation. Yes, so you got a general overview of the ecosystem of Android TV and everything. So I tried to prepare a presentation, and I also tried to prepare a demo. And this is not me. This is one of our other Google developer experts who have done a presentation, a very good one about Android TV. And he also has a really, really good demo, which I'm going to use here. So I stole his stuff. He also looks much better than me, so that's why I show his picture. So you can find the code for his project, the demo I'm going to show, on GitHub under the username Malmstein. He works at Novodo in London, and he's also a really good Android developer. Anyway, so when you start working with TV or apps for TV, you talk about the 10-foot experience. The 10-foot experience comes from the concept of that the phone is the 1-foot experience. You hold it 1 foot from your face, and you have your tablet, which you hold like up to 3 feet away, and the TV is 10 foot away. And that is really important because that kind of defines the limitations and what you can do and how you should design your apps. You can't go up and touch it because, well, it's not a tablet. Your TV doesn't have a touchscreen, at least not yet. And it will make a really horrible user experience going up to this one here. And like, yeah. So when you start designing your apps for TV, don't take your existing tablet app and just scale it up, or take your existing smartphone app and try to just run that one on the device. So I'm going to start now talking about how to design this. Is it on? Yes.
Great, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, yeah, so we're going to start looking at the UX, basically. So when you get an Android device, you get a remote control like this. It has a D-pad, digital pad, so it has like up, down, left, and right, and then a select in the middle. And this is how you navigate on the TV. And this is what user expects also. So you have to think about this in a D-pad navigation style. It actually uses the same APIs in Android that we had from the very, very beginning when we had a D-pad on the. And anyone had one of these early Android devices with a D-pad? Few of you. I loved mine. I still have it at home. So this is very important to remember. You navigate sideways. You put more stuff sideways than you put. Yes.
But how long term are you thinking of this thing? Because it doesn't seem sustainable. Because you could like basically do something with Connect or something that, from your perspective, you could actually touch stuff in the space.
Yes. So how many of you would like to sit on the sofa and do like this? Exactly. And who should it look at? Visit the whole family. So there are all these. I know the things about the Connect and recognizing stuff and detecting things that might come, but there are so many things in the user experience that you have to figure out before that. And this one is every time so much more faster than any gesture you have to do in the air, because it has to learn how you do it and everything like that. So yeah. So well, good question, but. Not yet, and I think it won't happen, actually. This one is really good for navigating on the big screen that's far away. With that said, another thing to think about is that icons are not square. You don't have the small square icons that we're used to. So the icons that you will have for starting your app will be this shape instead. Sorry. Also, another thing to remember, I just brought up 3 stuff here. If you go into the design guidelines for TV, there are some more stuff there as well. But apply a 10% margin on your apps. Don't put stuff way out on the corner, because some TVs do overscanning and scaling and stuff themselves, and then you will lose part of the UI. That's the UX design part I'm going to bring up today. So the first thing that differs from normal Android app is resource qualifiers. You all know this. You have like the HTTPI, and you have the version number, you have the language, etc., etc. There are a bunch of those, but there is a new one called television. You can create a layout that is specific for television. Okay? Nothing strange there. You can work with layouts, you can work with languages, strings, sizes, colors, themes, you name it. Then we come to the launcher. So you all know this. You create a main intent, and you add a category that says launcher. That's what you used to do in your Android application. You don't do that for the TV launcher. You say Leanback _ launcher instead, because that's the new category that tells the launcher screen in Android TV to show it up in the apps list. Also, good idea to use this as a landscape if you're, because most TVs will be that. So then you lock it in that direction. Yeah. And Robert mentioned these two very briefly. You use the uses features to make sure that your app shows up when you're going to install it from the Google Play Store. So uses features, you say Android software Leanback. So the whole support library and the library for developing Android apps is called Leanback. And you'd say required false if your app will also be installed on a smartphone or a tablet. That way you just signal to Google Play saying, OK, it will be showing up there, but I have other stuff here as well. And then comes a touchscreen. Since you don't have a touchscreen, you have to say that, well, this one uses a touchscreen, but it's not required. And this will make sure that it shows up correctly in Google Play and the installation works properly, et cetera, et cetera. Themes. Who here understands everything about Android themes? I guess we can have a session about that someday. I understand you. I really do. Anyway, there is a special theme that you should use when you're developing your Android TV apps. Theme Leanback. You extend from that one. So you just, when you have your own theme there, you create a new one for specifically for the Android TV, have that one extend theme.leanback instead. And you're good to go. Now, there are some things you can redesign here, like the color, the primary color. You can set that one, for instance. That's a standard Android theming. But two really interesting things is a window enter transition and exit transition. Rarely used in the normal Android apps, but here it actually makes a lot of difference because there are so big transitions. When you go from one screen to another, like you have 55-inch screen there, and it's like whoosh. That's why it's good to adapt this to look nice. And then we come to the Gradle dependencies. These are the recommended ones. Or rather, actually, it's just this one, the support library for Leanback. That's the one you should have at least, but I also recommend using Recycler View for the situation where you do want to create your own types of lists. Use App Compat because it has a lot of utilities that you can't live without. And if you're dealing with images, and you will, use the Picasa library. This will help you tremendously and make sure that the experience is really smooth. Now, coming into a little bit more code, real code here. Regular image view, something to think about here is to tell that it's focusable. If you have something that you will navigate to, like you will be able to select an image, you have to say that it's focusable and it's focusable in touch modes. Both of those two has to be enabled true. Another thing is that if you have many controls in your UI, you say that the next focus down and the next focus up can point to a different view in your layout. So if you have a specific layout there with a bunch of buttons or images or whatever that you're navigating through, this will decide which one you go to when you press left, right, up, and down. Yeah. Everyone got that one? Cool. And the key events you use, these have been in Android since version 1, I believe. It's the D-pad key events. These are mapped to the same ones as on this controller. Also, if you use the Android app, let's see if I have it here somewhere. Apparently I didn't, but OK. If there is an Android app that works exactly as this one. It will just send over the same type of event over there, over to the TV. Finally, and this this is not encouraged, but sometimes we do have to programmatically check if we're on a TV device or not. And in that case, you use a UI mode manager. You get that system service, you get the current mode type, and it contains a lot of different, it can be a lot of different things. But in your case here, we just want to check if we're on television or not. And then you do it like this. And this means that you can actually do different things when you're either on a TV or on a smartphone with the same APK. Leanback library. And I'm going to talk about a small part of the Leanback library because it's kind of big. It mostly contains UI widgets that's useful for designing Android TV app according to Google's guidelines, UX guidelines. And the most important one is called the BrowseFragment. So who here has done any Android TV app? 1, 2, 3. Yes, please don't. So you know the BrowseFragment, I guess. OK. BrowseFragment is a regular fragment implemented specifically for Android TV. And it's used to create the standard TV experience that we're used to, or maybe not used to, but that everybody will be used to once everyone got an Android TV, hopefully. Regular fragment, nothing special in that sense. Just extend it, create your own class of that one. In this case, I also have implemented a loader manager on this one. So the setup, then it will look like this. Sorry, this is a screenshot from the sample that I'm going to show you, and I think I will jump over to that one right away. Now, I'm really sorry for this one because if I use the 721, I get this big, and if I use a 1080, it gets really big. So I had to have something that I can actually use here. So in this case, this is what the Android TV launcher looks like. Of course, this one is on an emulator, so the Google Play services is not there. There are not much apps installed, so there is no recommendation showing up. But we're going to show the Nexus player later, and you will see a more full-fledged experience. In this case, I have the videos by Google. Funny name, since it's not developed by someone at Google, but anyway. So this is the app that I'm going to share with you later. And if you just start that one, it looks like this, my collection of videos. What this one does is it fetches down a JSON document containing information about different videos. And it starts with different categories, and those you see here to the left. And those categories are just mentioned, just the headers in the JSON document for a list there, in an array, sorry. And then for each item here, there is a list of videos or reference to videos. So the very simple implementation for this one is static, so it will just fetch everything there. All the videos are hosted online. So if I go here and I pick one of those, and then you get another, then you go into another fragment, and this fragment is called the details fragment. I'm not going to go into this one in detail, but it's rather simple. And it actually just pops you up a dialog where you can choose different options. In this case, we only have one. But for instance, if you would have a content that you could purchase, you would add multiple options here. If you get an Android TV and you start the movies application, if you go in here, you will see the trailer. You will be able to rent the movie, or you will be able to buy the movie. And sometimes there are more options as well. And if I start that one, I guess, yeah, it can't play video because it's on the emulator, but whatever.
There's also a normal standard fragment, the detailed fragment.
Yeah,
right.
It's and now it's kind of went sad on me here, but never mind. So what we're gonna look at the code for this one briefly. It's rather simple once you get the overall concept here. It kind of gives you all the APIs you need to populate this. And this is what Google recommends that most apps that provide content that are media in some way, how they should design it. You can decide the colors, you can decide everything else, and you know how these specific items should look like. If there should be, it's a card thing, so you can design it, basically do any kind of layout on these ones. So if we go back to the presentation, so the setup UI elements I had in this slide here, when the activity is created, is you can set things like the title, which will be my video collection there. You can say that the header state is enabled, hidden, or disabled. Disabled means that you won't have the blue header line to the left. It will go away. So if you have a UI where you don't want that kind of UI, you want to hide that kind of headers, you set headers disabled instead. If you set headers enabled, it will be shown when you start up the application. If you want it to be hidden when you start up the application, you say headers hidden. Headers transition on back enabled. It's how it should react when you press back on the control. And then you can set the colors, and you can set the search affordance colors. And the search affordance colors is the little search button up there. So nothing strange there. It's all according to material design guidelines. Android TV's Leanback library works with something called presenters. You give it presenters that will populate the data that's going to be shown. So you call set header presenter selector to tell the BrowseFragment how it's going to populate the list of headers. And the presenter class is really simple. It contains 3 different methods. So in this case, I want each. I think this is a presenter that's used for not for the headers, but for the items. The same thing there. It will just show a bitmap for each item. You just create it, and it works in the same concept as view holders for recycler view. So have you used the recycler view and the view holder there, you will recognize this pattern. Then you create an adapter, and it has a special type of adapter called array object adapter. You just give it a bunch of objects, and you interpret these objects yourself in this presenter class, where you get it in the middle on bind view holder there. And you see here, there's 2 for loops nested. So the first one iterates through the headers, and there you put the name of the header, which you see in the header item I create here. And I give it the entry key, which comes from my map of list of bitmaps. And then I iterate through all the bitmaps in that one and fill it out in the line there. So this is how the BrowseFragment's populating the data in a BrowseFragment works. And then in the end, you just call set adapter on the BrowseFragment, and it will take your adapter and show you all the data. Event listeners, there are three you need to know about when it comes to the BrowseFragment. On search click listeners. So if you want to start a search activity, or if you want to do something special there, you just have a click listener for that one. And then you have set on item view clicked listener and on item view selected listener. The difference there is you selected it, you navigated to it, and the clicked one is you actually pressed on that item. So on item view selected listener, which works in the same way as the on clicked listener, the method looks the same basically. It gives you the item view holder, so you can retrieve the object for that one, or the view for that one, and gives you everything. It tells you which row it was and everything like that. Recommendations. So, so if you know how to use the BrowseFragment, you can basically create any type of simple app that lets you browse media or music or videos or whatever it is you want to show. Weather forecast for different areas. I don't know. But the launcher in Android TV gives you on the top, it will give you recommendations. So when you start this one up, as we're going to show later, it will contain a list of recommendations that comes from all the apps that are installed. And it works in the following way. You add a receiver and a service, and the receiver is on boot completed. It basically starts up everything for you to populate recommendations to the system. And since this boot completed requires that you have started the app once, you have this limitation in Android that no broadcast receiver will be triggered until you started the application once. So you won't be able to show any recommendations until the user has actually started the app at least once. The service, the update recommendation service, is the one that shows the notifications. And that's what this is. These items here are notifications. And you treat them like that, and you can populate them in the same way as you do your rich notifications on Android in general. So there is a builder for that called Recommendation Builder, which basically is a wrapper around. You can use regular notifications, of course, if you want to do that. But Recommendation Builder kind of helps you and gives you some tools on that one. It ends up being a regular notification in the end anyway. So in this case, we just iterate through our recommendations, and then we populate that one. And then we give them as notifications to the system. And the TV launcher itself will basically decide how to show this of all the other recommendations it gets. Search. So when you're at the launcher screen on Android TV, you have a search button there as well. And that one allows you to search globally. So you can actually trigger there, and you can search for Netflix movies and Google Play movies and TED Talks, etc., all in the same interface, which is great, especially since it works with voice search. So you can press this one and search for whatever you want to do. And all you have to do, implement a provider, because we all love that. So basically, you just have to implement a query method. Rarely we write something when we do search. Yeah, get suggestions, return a cursor, which contains a specific set of columns, basically. So you create your own custom cursor for this. OK, finishing off here. So the two libraries, another library that I didn't mention here, but if you're going to work a lot with different types of media and displaying them and shoving them around, one called Glide is really, really useful. Helps a lot. Picasso. So how many here have used Picasso before? Yes, good. So I don't really need to nag about that one. Those of you who haven't used Picasso, you're using the wrong image library. Just kidding. But it's really great for especially for these guys, because it's very well implemented and tested and stuff like that. Also for playback, for media playback, there is a library project called ExoPlayer, which kind of takes away the pain of doing decoding, transcoding, and all the other stuff that are so painful to do when it comes to media playback on Android. It makes it simpler. You can do much more with this one with much less code. So if you're going to do media playback, use Exo library. And that's all I had to say. Now I'm going to thank you for listening.